Being an academic, I will stand behind this construction here, otherwise I feel I'm not speaking seriously. But I am very pleased and honored to talk to a group of such combat veterans in the struggle to make the life of workers better and the life of consumers better. And I think there are many similarities between what I hear here and what I know you are doing now, and the kind of work that I have been doing, because I am also interested in making life better in various ways. And the kind of similarities that we have, I wanted to point out to some of them, but I don't get cooperation from the technology here. Let's see. Why doesn't this move anything? Okay, all right. So to the left is a statement that tries to describe what I call flow, and to the right is more a familiar way of describing flow, and we heard just 2 or 3 presentations before description of flow as a management process. And the one to the left, that my interest in flow is to make it possible for people not only to produce flow or to participate in flow, but to actually live in flow, to experience life as a series of experiences which go spontaneously from one to the other in a pattern that makes life better, that makes you want to continue to do what you're doing, and that if you can do it in most parts of your life will result in a state of well-being and possibly happiness, or as close to happiness as humans can get. And well, okay. This is a highly condensed model of how happiness is, or how flow is produced. And essentially, our research that has been going on for over 50 years in this field and is the best way to describe flow is in terms of these 2 variables. The vertical one is the amount of challenge that you face, and the horizontal one is the skill that you have in situations of challenge, of the kind of challenge that you are facing. And as you see that we can measure quite precisely people's skills and their perception of challenge. We use electronic pagers that people wear and report moment by moment. If they are signaled, they say how much challenge they perceive and how many skills they think they have. And when both are high, that's the condition of flow up there. If it's above the mean for you, the week that you are being studied, then it's almost certain that in that moment when you are above average challenge, above average skill, that's when you report the best. You feel most concentrated, more strong, more happy. The other combinations of challenge and skill get less and less positive. For instance, the two to the side of flow, arousal, where your skill is a little below what is really needed, but you feel that you are close enough to being able to face the challenge. That's arousal, and that's a very positive state also. And below flow, the state of control, is one where the challenge is not really very exciting because you have done this before and you feel quite in control. You think you can cope with the skills that you have, and that's also positive. Relaxation is even less challenge, but it's still positive. But then you get in the area of boredom where you feel that you are not using any of your skills and the challenges are low, and that's not a very good situation. And usually the worst is the bottom left corner, apathy, where you have no challenge and you are not using any skills. And then as you move up, you enter the state of worry and then anxiety, which is also a very negative state for most people. So it is this way of conceiving of the state of mind based on simply the level of challenge and the level of skills is a fairly good predictor or descriptor of how people actually feel during the day, during the week, or during life. And usually, before you get into flow, there are certain preconditions, there are certain environmental situations that need to be present. One is that it's hard to get into flow unless you know what you want to accomplish or what the goal is, what the challenge is. And so that is one of the usual prerequisites of flow. And then certain challenges are just negative and you don't want to even consider them, but mostly the challenge should be one that you have successfully tried to accomplish before and you had certain success with it. So the challenge is seen as positive, and that it balances with your skill level. And then the other outside condition that is usually important is that you can see whether you are succeeding or failing. So there is a continuous feedback. It's hard to persist in an activity where you have to do something without knowing whether what you're doing makes sense or not, whether it's successful or not. And so that being able to present feedback is important for flow to occur. Now, this is again a simplified schema of how flow works out during a normal process. For instance, suppose that you are starting some new project or a new skill of some sort where your skills are still low. You don't get into flow unless the challenges are low too. Okay, so the A on that level, the lower left hand, is the starting point. Now, if you practice that activity for a while, your skills increase. But if the challenge remains the same, you soon end up being bored because you say, okay, now I can do that. Why am I still doing it? Okay, and either you quit after B, or you have to increase the challenges, and then you are in C and you feel back in flow. Now, that would be a good place to stay, but you are either going to go again into boredom, or the challenges suddenly become too high because you are good at it at sea. Your boss gives you an assignment that really stumps you, that you are not prepared to handle. Then you end up in D, being too hard, and so forth. And if you are lucky, you survive in D and you develop more skills, you end up in E, where you are back into flow. And any kind of activity that we do, whether it's playing the violin or playing chess or learning to do an engineering job or whatever, it's a constant fluctuation between too much challenge or too little challenge. And to keep people in flow, that is, keep them feeling that this is good, this is exciting, this is interesting, you have to be able to make it possible for the person to balance the amount of challenge with the skills they have, either by increasing challenge or increasing skills. So that's, for instance, one profession that I studied quite intense for quite a period of time is surgery, because it turned out that surgeons are really mostly so devoted to their work because, not just because they help people, because they save life, because they make a lot of money, all of which is true, but also because the experience itself is so exciting and involving that they will do it even when, for instance, some of the surgeons that I studied at first and got me interested in this problem were people who say that, the surgeons say that, I haven't taken any vacation the first 5 years since I started surgery. Then my wife said, no, this can't go on. Let's go and spend some weeks in Acapulco, in Mexico, and took me there. And I stayed in the seashore on the beach for 3 or 4 days, and then I felt so bored that I volunteered to do surgery in the hospital. That I did surgery in the morning, and I went to the beach in the afternoon, and I was happy. So that, when they describe surgery, they describe these conditions, and these are the same that you find basketball players describe when they play, or chess players, or anybody who likes what they're doing. They describe it as concentration becomes so into the activity that all kinds of distractions disappear. You have surgeons who, one surgeon at least I talked to, who just came out of operation and said, you know what happened? And said, after I finished the operation, the nurse came there and went like this to me, and they said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm getting the plaster off your smock, because says, why? And she said, well, the ceiling fell to pieces and while you were operating, and the surgeon didn't notice it, and he was so into the operation that the fact that the ceiling was kind of disintegrating and falling didn't bother him. Anyway, you don't think about what will happen later or what happens before. You just have to focus all on what's going on now, because that's what matters. If you start thinking about, oh, will I do a good operation, will this succeed or not, your scalpel will move and in a wrong way, and you will cut an artery or something. Or and the sense of time is usually means that you may be doing something for a couple of hours, and at the end you look at the watch and say, what happened? I thought it was only 5 minutes ago that I started. And this is very typical. On the other hand, there are ice skaters who describe their triple lutzes that take only 20 seconds to do on the ice, and they say they experience it as if it's half an hour, because every little part of the experience registers, and it looks like all kinds of time, but it's just a second. So that time is not, the watch time no longer predicts how you feel, because you feel, your feeling of time depends on what you're doing and how you're paying attention and what you're looking for. And you forget about your problems. You forget the things that happened at home or your professional problems. You are just have to do the best that you can, and that's all you are focusing on. So now, obviously, in the translation of this experience into business is that if you have people at work who have flow when they are working, you find that the organization is moving quickly and effortlessly, and the people who are working feel that what they are doing is enjoyable and makes sense to them and want to do it again. So it's you are almost guaranteed that the performance goes up if more and more people who are working there experience flow. And also, of course, you are a company that becomes known as a place where you can experience flow at work will become a magnet for people who want to do a job which is not only pays money but also provides addition to their well-being as in life. And in many places when they start introducing flow, one of the first signs that it starts to work is that the turnover goes down and you don't have to spend a lot of money and to keep up with the new employees who have to be trained and taught. And so this is how flow feels. And the question is then, of course, what can we do as employers, managers, to make this happen? And the model of what makes flow happen helps to develop strategies for, like, first of all, you have to make sure that people know what they're doing and what they should be doing, and that it's clear what a good job and a good performance that you expect is like. And you don't want to overwhelm them or bore them, produce anxiety or boredom, which are the two areas around when the challenges and skills are out of sync. Feedback is important. Obviously, what you want is the employee or the person himself to know what is good and bad so that you can give feedback to yourself. An expert is simply a person who knows what's good and bad, can read the feedback of their actions. That's an expert. And you want your workers to know that what is good work, what's bad work. And of course, one thing that very often interferes with flow is the breaking up of a person's engagement with the work by having too many things interrupting and distracting. And that's often one of the things that makes it hard for a worker to keep attention. In my work, I was also interested in looking at people who had made a big difference in their area of work, and who seemed to have kind of a joy in what they were doing. And these are some of the people we interviewed, whom I don't have to introduce to you, but certainly all of these people had a very clear idea of having to get out of work whatever you can get out of it, not just success measured by financial metrics, but also by how you feel about what you're doing and how you feel that you are contributing to what happens there. And all of these people gave us a lot of information that matched also the interviews that I did with scientists and artists and with sports people. Underneath all of that, there is this understanding that you want to continue to develop your skills and continue to get to the highest challenge that you could achieve. And the relationship, of course, between having people in flow and having the work process in flow, the whole is very obvious, and you want to, these are some obvious ways in which you can facilitate, and again here, the previous knowledge that the lean Kanban has developed is related to these ideas. And I was, after I published a book, Good Business, based on the interviews with these successful business people, I got a lot of questions about how to apply this at work. And it turns out that the best applications I had nothing to do with, because the people themselves read the book, thought about it, and then they applied it. But a lot of people just didn't know how to extrapolate, how to build on these research findings and apply them. So that's when I decided to respond to one of these, an invitation from a colleague in Hungary who was here and who has been doing very interesting work in developing games that would get people to learn how to build business teams or how to manage certain business problems. And we decided, how can we gamify flow-related learning. And it turned out that, yes, it's possible. And we had these, the people in Hungary who developed this learned from the business literature what are the major skills that people have discovered, and these are about 29 different skills. And the ones in the blue, in the light blue, light green, there are 4 of these hexagons are number 4, number 15, 24, 27. These are really the flow-based skills, this was incorporated in the game, and here this just shows a kind of how you can use the game to measure the different types of skills. These are 2 different organizations. One is an automotive company, which is the blue line, and the other one is a financial service company, both of them from Europe. And you see how they differ in the various skill level that their workers have. Both are very high on analytic skills and intuitive thinking, but for instance, the automotive company is much better at delegating work, whereas the financial service company seems to be better at time pressure decisions. Now, all of these profiles were taken from how they played the game. You play the game, and as you make the decisions, you show how they, what skills they are most attuned to doing. These are 2 companies that have been using flow, and the Green Cargo is a Swedish company that brings iron ore from the north of Sweden to the south, where near Göteborg, where they have the big I forget now what is the process by which iron ore is turned into steel, essentially. And that company was famous for being in the red for 125 years in a row. And it was subsidized by the government, because it was very important to have access to these minerals that run essentially the economy of Sweden to a large extent. And so Green Cargo survived only because of infusion of tax money into it. And one of the young men from Sweden who studied with me decided to apply flow to the management of Green Cargo. He didn't have Green Cargo in mind. He just wanted to use it in Sweden somehow, and he ended up working for Green Cargo, became the HR person in Green Cargo, and it took him 3 years to help the company make the first profit, and it's been profitable since. And that was because he was able to convince the CEO of the company to introduce flow-based management. Another example was LG, where the company that makes the screens for your most of our computers and so forth. And LG, the CEO of LG asked me to go there in Seoul, in Korea, to talk to the managers there, and I kept responding, saying, "No, I'm too busy. It takes too long, etc., etc." Go and come just for talking to a bunch of engineers. And then one day I got a call from LAX, the airport, saying that the person called said, I am the general manager of LG in Seoul, and my boss asked me to come and talk to you if possible. And I said, well, sure, come on, but I don't think I want to go. He said, well, he's very eager. He said he read the Bible 5 times, but he read flow 6 times. So I said, all right, come on and let's talk. Then I went there, and it was actually very nice. There were like 700 managers, because I think LG has 250,000 employees all over, and 700 of the top managers. And then the CEO showed me the profile of income and expenditure and profits for the company, and it showed that the income has been going straight up for 25 years, but the profits went up at the beginning, and then they went down, and then 10 years ago there was another inflection point, and it went up like this. And he showed that inflection point of 10 years before and said, since that point we made $6.5 billion more than predicted. So that was and what they did was something similar to the Swedes with the green cargo, but it was not as personally. In green cargo, they really had a method of building a kind of a pyramid of responsibilities, so that each person who had subordinates had to find out what the subordinates enjoyed from their work and what made them bored, what made them anxious. And they used some of our methods to establish that. And then once they found out what the person's comfort zone was, or what they needed more challenge, or they needed more skills, then the boss had to decide how to increase or decrease the challenge or skills of the people who work for them. So each person had to be responsible between 3 and 5 of the subordinates. And they got kind of monthly feedback from the workers. And at first, the managers of the company said, oh, this is just another level of demands on our time, and it's going to be a wasted effort and so forth. But after 2 years, the management was sold on the idea, because they saw what was happening, that the people that worked, the turnover went down, the personnel, the people were more excited about their work, they volunteered, etc. So this is one where this is a Hungarian major saving bank. But this was, I was called there to talk to the owner, to the top man in this bank, who is also, and to advise about the bank. But it turned out that the CEO of the bank was also the president of the Hungarian Soccer Association. And he complained about the fact that Hungarian soccer, which was such a great power in soccer 50 years ago, soccer was not in the top teams to qualify for the World Cup in the past two sessions of the World Cup. And I happened to have a student at the university who studied basketball games in America, and found that there is a procedure by which the coaches, when the two teams are more or less equal, 10 minutes before the end of the game, then they call the team together a timeout, and they adopt a process by which each the team member, all of the guys in the team are told, don't try to shoot the ball yourself, pass it to the ace, to the one person who is really good. And so the Lakers, it was Kobe Bryant. He had to take the burden of the game at the end if the game was more or less tied. Now, what my student showed, and this was very obvious once you saw the numbers, is that the productivity of Kobe Bryant went down in the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes, when this procedure was adopted. And also the other team members were they couldn't actually shoot because they just had to pass it to Bryant. So I told this story to the president of the Soccer Association, and he said, oh, but this is the problem with our coach. Our coach, when the game is in balance, he will tell people to just, the team, pass it to the best scorer and don't try to do your own thing otherwise. Okay, so he was very excited to hear about this, and I forgot about it, and then about 3 months later, he sends me a email saying, guess what, I told your story to my coach, to the coach of the national team, and for the first time in 53 years, the first time we qualified for the World Cup. And this was a kind of unexpected contribution because I was there to talk to him about the operations of the bank, but the understanding of the importance of flow is not just in the business area or the sports area. This is a human need that we have to do our best, to try to do it, and to find ways in which we can demonstrate that we can achieve the goals that we set. And this is the most important human achievement, is to be able to be effective in the goals that we set. And therefore, one of the takeaways of what I'm trying to say is that if you want unit to perform well, you can try to increase not only the flow of the process of the production, but also the flow of the experience of the worker. So that's the major takeaway, and since time has been running out, I think for a while, I'm sorry. Okay.